Okay, sweet Christmas. I got a excuse to wear a hoodie in this review as we talk about Marvel's Luke Cage, the third Marvel show that is on Netflix. You've had Daredevil starring Charlie Cox, then we had Jessica Jones starring Jessica Ritter, where we met Michael Coulter's character Luke Cage. And then we had the second season of Daredevil, where Daredevil went up against the Punisher, played by John Bernthal. And now we got our third show, Luke Cage, where we have our lead character, Mike Coulter, playing Luke Cage. And I have to say, this show is awesome, and it's really great to have a superhero show where the lead is a black man and the majority of the cast is black, and it's just really awesome, and I just really love the show. So this series is set up after the events of Jessica Jones. Luke Cage has come home to Harlem to work for a man that's been like a father to him, Henry Hunter, or Henry Pops Hunter. Pops is the name he goes by, who owns a barber shop. And Luke Cage becomes like the janitor there, sweeping up the hair. And he's also working at a bar called Harlem's Paradise, where he's a bartender and a dishwasher. And the bar is owned by our villain, Coronel Cottonmouth, played by Mahershala Ali. And Pops gets Mike Coulter's character, Luke Cage, to become a superhero, pushes him to be the hero of Harlem, be the Captain America of Harlem, as he's called in one episode by one of the villains, Shades, played by Theo Rossi, and starts standing up to Cottonmouth, who is being a big tyrant to Harlem, being this gangster under the disguise that he's trying to clean up Harlem. And he has his own protection. We got more than one villain in this series. We got 4 villains in this series when you count Cottonmouth. You have Cottonmouth's cousin, Mariah Dillard, being played by Alfre Woodard. And that's kind of confusing that Alfre Woodard is playing an entirely different character in this series than she was playing in the Captain America Civil War movie. And this series is supposed to be in the same universe as Civil War. But whatever. And as I said before, Shades, played by Theo Rossi, is a side villain, kind of. And then you have Willis Diamondback Stryker, being played by Eric Lee Ray Harvey, as the 4th villain of the series. And this series doesn't even feel convoluted when you have 4 villains. It just, because each villain gets a good amount of screen time and a good amount of character development, which is great. And everybody gets a good amount of screen time here. Look who else we got here. Rosario Dawson shows up again as Claire Temple, the night nurse. She gets a much bigger role in this series and becomes like a big cast member of the show, and that's great. And you got Misty Knight, Detective Misty Knight, being played by Simone Missick, and there's a woman in this who we meet in the flashbacks of episode 4 as Luke Cage's wife, or widow, as the woman that, actually Luke Cage is a widower, so the woman that he was married to, you do get to meet her in this series, and you get to see how they meet. and the origin of Luke Cage's powers, which is that he was in prison and he got badly hurt by somebody in the prison, Shades, and then he goes through this experiment that gives him unbreakable skin, and he becomes bulletproof. So it's at this point that he decides to break out of prison and become a superhero, pretty much. Even though he really doesn't want to be a superhero, he just wants to be left alone, really, but he's pushed into it. And I have to say, this show is awesome. Luke Cage is a terrific character. The show is really action-packed once the action gets started, and that's great. The city of Harlem feels like a character in and of itself, and that is really awesome. The music, the culture of the show, it's just everything about the show is so darn good. And everybody has good chemistry, or when you meet the villains, they are really menacing and everything, and it's just such a good show, and the action is done so well. And I did like how in episode 4 they show the costume that if you were to read the comics, that Luke Cage did wear, how they worked that into the series for just that one episode, which was really cool. And it was just such a really good show, and I really don't find that much wrong with it. I guess the flaws would be that it does take a little bit to get into gear. It is a little slow, but once it gets into gear, it's really good. I guess that's why one of the comments I read online is that somebody's found the show boring. It's like, how can you find this show boring? It's awesome. I didn't find this show boring at all. Because even during the downtimes, you got good character development, and you really got to learn about everybody within the show, and you got a good storyline, a good writing and everything. So I don't see how this show can be considered to be boring, really. But if you're expecting this to be action-packed every minute, then I guess you consider it boring. But come on, you gotta give it some. You have to have some downtime for some story. What the heck? I would have to say maybe Cornell Cottonmouth is maybe a little bit of a weak villain, but the other villains like Mariah Dillard and Shades and Diamondback, they make up for how much of a weak villain that Cornell Cottonmouth is at times. And Diamondback becomes like the villain that really is able to stand toe-to-toe with Luke Cage. Which the fight between them is awesome. And I just have to say, this was such a really good show. When I was watching like all 13 episodes, every once in a while, I would like watch just a couple episodes just to get through. While I'm sitting down, eating and everything. And it was just really cool watching this while I'm waiting for Flash Season 3 to start. So I'm going to give this series an A-. It is a really awesome show. You got to check this show out. If I were to rank the 3 shows, I have to say that Daredevil is the best. And this show is second best. Luke Cage is second best. And then Jessica Jones is third best. Because this show doesn't have any annoying characters like Jessica Jones did. Because Jessica Jones had that annoying redhead. There's nobody annoying in this show. There's no stupid subplots that I don't really care about like they had in Jessica Jones. And it's just a much more interesting show. I mean, I loved Jessica Jones because Jessica Jones was great. Jessica Ritter was, well, played the character so well, and you had a great villain from David Tennant as Kilgrave, and the show was so dark and everything, but there were times that it lost where the interest was going down because of all the filler. But this show, it just, even the filler was good, so definitely check out Luke Cage and the other Netflix shows. And that's all I gotta say for this show. Sweet Christmas.